Well, good afternoon, everyone. So believe it or not, on top of a pandemic and for the last couple of months, we also have to remind folks that we are in hurricane season as well. And while we are obviously doing everything we can to focus on the pandemic, we must also prepare for Mother Nature as well. So with Tropical Storm Isaias motoring up the southeast coast, I wanted to take a few moments today to pull some of our team together and provide you with an update on where things stand with respect to our city and its preparation once Isaias arrives. We are currently in a flood watch from 10 p.m. tonight until 10 p.m. tomorrow. And you know, currently we're in a tropical storm warning as well. And we're expecting the storm to begin affecting our area anywhere from late tonight through late tomorrow afternoon. If you have been outside, which looks like everybody's dressed in rain gear, you have already begun feeling some of the effects of the storm and its arrival here in the city of Richmond. We can expect wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour at some point, and Dominion is expecting power outages in central Virginia as a result of those wind gusts. Perhaps the biggest concern in our city is the possibility of heavy rainfall, as our area could get anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of rain in a very, very short period of time, as little as 6 to 8 hours. We also must keep an eye on our river levels after the storm passes, which could cause dangerous conditions along the James later in the week. Now, we expect the city to partially activate the Emergency Operations Center later this evening, and we will provide updates throughout this weather event on our social media channels to keep the public informed. For more information and safety tips, please visit the website ready.gov. That's READY.gov. Now I'd like to bring up members of our emergency response team and Anthony McLean to provide more detailed update about this weather event. So, Mr. McLean.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the mayor has indicated, we will partially activate the Emergency Operations Center this evening with the following departments. We want to make sure that our public safety group is involved in this activation. Fire department, the police department, the Department of Emergency Communication, Richmond Sheriff's Office, Richmond Ambulance Authority, Public Works, Public Utilities, External Affairs, and our Health Department. By partially activating the Emergency Operations Center, we are following CDC guidelines as well to ensure that we have the appropriate amount of PPE available to those that will be in the Emergency Operations Center. We will make sure that we have face masks and gloves and hand sanitizer as well. So we will make sure that we keep 6 feet apart to ensure that we have social distancing as part of the guidelines. So we feel strong that we are ready to deal with this event. And as already indicated, the Emergency Operations Center will be partially activated this evening.
Thank you. Now I'd like to bring up Reggie Gordon, who is the head of our Human Services portfolio, as he's the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for that division. Reggie's going to provide an update on how we are assisting our most vulnerable populations in advance of the storm. So, Mr. Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. Of course, our goal is always to keep our citizens safe during times like these, And as the mayor indicated, some people are not stably housed. And so what we have done as a community is redouble our efforts to go through the community today, working with Homeward and the Greater Richmond Continuum of Care, the Richmond Police Department, Hope Unit, and also social services to find persons who might be in unstable housing situations and bring them toward the system, whether that's getting them into an existing shelter bed or if there is no shelter bed for them to put them in a hotel. If you are aware of anyone in that situation, please call the Housing Crisis Line, which is 804-972-0813. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gordon. Now I'd like to bring up Public Utilities Director Calvin Farr. I want Calvin to touch a little bit on our preparations for managing our water and sewers and utilities during this storm event. So, Calvin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, DPU, we started preparations this past Friday, doing our maintenance efforts on the hot spots where it's prone to flooding. I must say we're ready. I get a lot of questions about the flood wall during these major rainfall and hurricane events. We're ready to activate the flood wall if needed. Usually when that happens, we get a lot of rainfall for a long duration out west, which drains through the city. So we're keeping a close eye on those river gauges and river levels to activate the flood wall. In regards to power outages, we have backup generators, and we're fully ready to continue to provide 24/7 utility services, especially water supply. So DPU is ready to go.
Finally, I'd like to call on our fire chief, Melvin Carter, just to wrap us up with some guidance on what you can do to stay safe through this major weather event. And so, Chief Carter.
Thank you, Mayor Stoney. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I would urge our citizens and visitors to stay away from flood-prone areas. In and around the city, there are areas that historically may flood, particularly when we get a lot of rain, and people often attempt to drive through those areas. I would caution our residents and those that are traveling through our city not to do so because it may be dangerous and the water may be much deeper than you thought it was. Also, I encourage residents to stay indoors during the hurricane. As wind speeds pick up, debris may get thrown around. We could see windows breaking, and we don't want our residents and those visiting our wonderful city to be injured by debris from our hurricane and or tropical storm. And if you reside or visiting a mobile home park, please consider residing or moving into a shelter that's provided by the city, as Mr. Gordon has alluded to earlier. And if you're exposed, seek higher ground. I can't overemphasize that enough, particularly when there is a potential for a flash flood in the area. And if you're told to evacuate, please take that order seriously and evacuate. Hurricanes are unpredictable by their very nature, and we want to make sure that residents have adequate time and the best opportunity possible to make sure that they're protected. Also, and to the extent possible, ensure that you have an emergency kit. This would include important phone numbers, water for you and your family, a list of medications that you are taking or need to take, a flashlight if you have one, and when in doubt, if all else fails, when in doubt, please do not hesitate to dial 911 to call for emergency services. That's all that I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. I will add to Chief Carter's remark real quick, and that is, in any inclement weather, any storm event, the number one piece of advice we can provide folks is let's use common sense while we're out there. Do your best to not only for you to stay safe, but also for those in your family. And also, in a time like this, don't forget to check on your neighbors as well. What's gotten us through this pandemic for the last few months is that neighbors taking care of neighbors, and we still need that at this moment too. So if you know of an elderly or senior family or individual in your neighborhood that may need a little help right now, put your mask on and go by, knock on the door, and check in on that individual. That's what we need to do right now in these trying times. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's best to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. My hope is that the hardest thing about Tropical Storm Isaias is, well, pronouncing the name Isaias all the time. We love peaceful visitors to our city, but my hope is that Tropical Storm Isaias doesn't linger and keeps on going, and preferably back out to sea. Either way, I want you to know that the city of Richmond is prepared. And you've heard that from a number of those on the emergency management team as well. And we ask that you continue to be smart and exercise caution and common sense in this storm. And so with that, we will take a few questions.
Brendan? Where would you expect the worst flooding to be in the city? Is there a certain neighborhood that you think people should stay out of?
Yep.
Can you repeat the question for me?
Yeah, where in the city do you expect the worst flooding that could possibly be?
We get flooding in the Chaco area. Where we get some real bad flooding down the south side. The challenge down the south side of Richmond is there's actually very little drainage storm system, so it's going to flood most likely. But we have about 25 hot spots throughout the city that we know that floods on a regular basis that we've actually maintained. We've cleaned them, storm drains since Friday, and so we're ready to go in regards to those hot spots.
Sierra? You good? You good? Brendan, you have enough? No? Anybody else? Chris?
I'll ask, is this the only time in history that Richmond's been under 3 different
State of emergencies.
Has that ever happened before?
Well, Chris, I'm only 39 years old, so I don't I'm only 39, so I don't know in the city's history, which is what, 200, 80, 90 some years old. I can't really speak to how many times this has really occurred, but you're right. We're under 3 states of emergency at the moment. It just shows you once again that these are unprecedented times. And, they call for extraordinary efforts from public servants like the ones that you've seen speak today. And the city of Richmond and its residents should know that they're going to get 150% of effort from our team to ensure that we keep people safe. Okay?
Well, thank you so much for coming, everybody. Really appreciate it. Stay safe out there and be careful. And thank you for keeping our public informed and the city residents informed of the need to stay safe and be cautious during the storm. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.